Hi guys, and welcome to Learn Extra Live Grade 12s. How are you? I hope that you're doing awesome and you're keeping warm in this cold, miserable weather, even though I love it. And I can see that Peter's chomping at the bit to say hello to you. Hi, Peter.
How's it, guys? Great to be back again. I just saw the weather in between the quick break, and apparently there's an 80% chance of rain over most of the country, which is quite scary, hey?
I think it's pretty good.
Well, yeah, I
I
suppose
think it's
it is
good.
good to have a
There must
bit
be
of
lots
rain.
of rain, and then, the spring buds come.
And
start
especially if you
popping
don't
out
have a
and-
swimming pool, just put a cozy on, go and stand outside, enjoy the experience.
There you go.
right.
There you go. So, guys, today, grade 12s, last week you were asking about lots of tax questions, and we promised you that we would be going through them today. So, I see on the board there, my sneaky little eye sees percentiles. Peter,
Yeah.
what are you taking in the grade 12s through?
All right. Well, our viewers last week begged us to go through percentiles and to go through tax questions, and we promised them we'd do that today. And that's what we're going to start our program off with. So we're going to look at a percentile question or two, and then after that, we're going to look at a nice, really enjoyable tax type questions. Okay. And then
Really enjoyable tax type questions. Guys, that's the first and last time you'll probably hear that.
right. So I'm going to go and get ready, and you can tell
Yeah,
them how
I'll
to
do this thing. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, guys, we're going to have an awesome show. We're going to have lots of fun because learning is fun. And what you need to do is you need to chat to us. We like to make it engaging. We like to make it conversational. So what I do is that I sit behind my computer and I chat to you on facebook.com/learn extra. You can also chat to me on Twitter @learn extra. And I see that we've got 16,866 mindsetters on the page that have liked the page. And it would be amazing if we could get to 17,000. Perhaps not today, but hopefully sometime this weekend or even during our Monday shows. So now I can see that Peter is ready to get cracking. Peter, take it away.
Right, and before we even start the show, a little advert here. Guys, Saturday afternoon, 1:30, okay? We're meeting back here in the studio, you meeting back in your living room or wherever you currently are watching us, and we're going to have a whole nother session. I think it's an hour and a half session.
It
from
is,
1:30
but
to 3
Peter,
o'clock.
don't forget that there are other subjects too, guys. We start at 9 a.m. and we've had sessions throughout the day. I will be posting more information for you guys on the Facebook page, so be sure to check out for that.
Absolutely. They're doing other weird and unimportant subjects like science and life science and math. But maths literacy, folk, and that's what it's all about, is at 1:30 on Saturday afternoon. From 1:30 to 3 o'clock. Diarize it now. Set it on your little, what do you call the cell phone things. Okay? Give yourself a reminder. Set it for 1:20, so it gives you 10 minutes to sit in front of the TV, get ready, and interact with us. And please remember something else as well. These shows are all for you. If there is something you want us to go through, please, 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 why don't you just BBM or MMS or whatever you're doing on that computer thing.
tweet,
Facebook, tweets, all that kind of stuff. Let Indiana know. She will let us know. We can set up a program for your needs on Saturday afternoon. Okay, so today's program, last week we had so many folks who said, please go through tax, go through tax, go through tax. And we even had some people say, geez, percentiles, don't understand it. Please, can you go through that? And because that's what you want us to do, that's exactly what we are going to do today. So let's get started straight away. Okay, so we're going to look at percentiles first. Now, folk, on looking at percentiles, I just want to show you how it all fits in. If we were to look at a series of numbers, okay, you understand that with my series of numbers, I've got my lowest number and I've got my highest number, okay? And the difference between my highest number and my lowest number is what we call the range, all right? I'm sure you remember that. Right? So our series of numbers start from a low number to a high number. Okay? Any numbers you are given, any numbers, you will always know there's a low one, there's a high one. The difference between those two is my range. Now, if I took those numbers and I put them in numerical order, in other words, I put them in order from my lowest number all the way through to my highest number, when I look at those numbers, I will realize that I will have a number right in the middle. Okay? And that number in the middle, we would term our median. Okay? And you're fully aware of that term. We've used it often and often throughout several of the programs. All right. Another thing we can call that median is our 50th percentile. Sure. That's something new. Okay? We also looked at something called interquartile range. And we said we get something called a quartile 1 and a quartile 3. Now, quartile 1 is halfway between my lowest number and my middle number. Or we can say it's 25% of the way from my lowest to my highest number. My quartile 3 is halfway between the middle number and the highest number. Or we can say it's my 75th percentile. In other words, when we look at these numbers, and obviously my highest number is my 100th percentile, and my lowest number is my 0th percentile. So if I say to you, with all the numbers you've got, how many numbers are lower than your lowest number? Well, that doesn't make sense, hey? Because if you got your lowest number, you can't get any numbers lower than that. In other words, and let's change my color pen, there's 0% of my numbers are lower than my lowest number. Right? 25, if I go a quarter way through my set of numbers, 25% of those numbers are higher than my lowest number. 50% of my numbers, when I get halfway, are lower than my middle number, and 50% are higher than my middle number. And my 75th percentile, or quartile 3, means 75% of my numbers are lower than the quartile 3 number. And 25% would be higher than my 3/4 number. Does that make sense? Maybe I should do it using actual numbers. Let's do that. Okay? So let's say I'm giving you these numbers here. I'm giving you the number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? And then let's say I've given you 7 again. And then 8, 9, and 10. No, 9 numbers. Okay. So when I look at that, I know my lowest number is 3. My highest number is 10. What's my middle number? Well, if we were to look at it, we've got the 4 and the 9, the 5 and the 8, the 6 and that 7. So here is my middle number. Right? The middle of my lowest and my middle number will be my 5. And we call that quartile 1. The middle of my middle and my highest number is 8. And we call that quartile 3. Got it? So 25% of my numbers are lower than 5. 50% of my numbers are lower than 7. And 50% of my numbers are 7 or higher. 25% of my numbers are higher than 8. And 75% of my numbers are lower than 8. So I can call this 0%. I can call this 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100%. Now, folk, in reality, we don't just get 0%, 25, 50, 75, and 100%. In reality, we get 0%, 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, and I can keep going on, all right? 97, 98, 99, and 100%. So all my numbers can be broken up into 100%. And listen to it carefully, 100% or percentiles. Okay, and that's what we're going to look at now, percentiles. Saying, you know, my age, if I look at the population of the entire South Africa, I am currently 22 years old, okay? So how much of the population is younger than me, and how much of the population is older than me? Well, I will fit in somewhere along, so if I took everybody's age in the whole world, in the whole of South Africa, and wrote the age down. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, all the babies who haven't turned 1 yet. And then 1, 1, 1, 1, all the babies who are 1 year old. And then 2, 2, 2. Eventually, the age of 22 is going to fit somewhere on that whole set of numbers. And I might be able to say, do you know what? 18% of the population is younger than me. and 72% of the population, or 82% of the population, is older than me. All right? Sadly, that's not true. I think it's the other way around. But do you understand what we mean by percentile? So you will fit somewhere on a line and say, you know what, over at this point, 90% of the population is younger than me, 10% of the population is older than me. Right, so without any further ado, let's go and have a look at what a percentile is. And what I did was I managed to get a few definitions and just to try and explain it a little bit more. So if you didn't understand my explanation, which I hope you did, let's try and look here. So percentiles are like quartiles, except that percentiles divide the set of data into 100 equal parts, while quartiles divide the set of data into 4 equal parts. Percentiles measure position from the bottom. Percentiles are most often used for determining the relative standing of an individual in a population, or the rank position of an individual. Some of the most popular uses for percentiles are connected with test scores and graduation standings. Okay? Percentile ranks are an easy way to convey an individual's standing at graduation relative to other graduates. Unfortunately, there's no universally accepted definition of percentiles. Consider the following two. Definition 1. A percentile is a measure that tells us what percent of the total frequency scored at or below that measure. A percentile rank is the percentage of scores that fall at or below a given score. Sure. These definitions get complicated. The great thing is you don't have to know the exact definition at all, as long as you understand what a percentile is. So it's basically taking a whole set of data and dividing into 100 equal parts, and you see where you fit in to that data. All right, so how can they ask us questions on this? Let's have a look at this. All right. Now, consider the graph below. Right? These are growth charts for the United States. Now, it is important to know that it is for the United States, so it's not for South Africa, but I'd like to believe that we're all human beings and we all kind of grow the same, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to look at the weight for each boy. Now, please note, it's for boys, and it's from birth to 36 months. Let's have a look at that. So from the time a child is born, we will plot how heavy he is, right up to the time he's 36 months old, and we'll plot how heavy that kid is. And guys, one day, when you've got your own kid, and you get this tiny little minute human being who actually looks like a little monster, because they're ugly when they come out, they're just like gross. But you pick up this little human being, and it's tiny, and it just reminds me of when my son was born, okay? My son was slightly prep. He was supposed to be born on something like the 24th of May, and he popped out on the 11th of April. So he was really prim. He was so tiny that if I put his head into my hand, his feet ended here at my elbow. So he was a tiny little lad. And I remember seeing this kid and seeing them rip him out, or see the doctors rip him out of my wife's stomach, and thinking, oh my word, what has my wife done here? Okay? He looked horrendous. It was gross. It was disgusting. It looked like an alien out of space. It really did. He's not like that anymore. Okay? He's now looking like his dad. Good, hunky, handsome fella. But at that stage, it was like frightening. And then they take this little kid and they clean him up. And before they clean him up, they take him, they slap him. I think that's to get the lungs working or something. And the baby cries unbelievably. And then they take this insignificant little blob of a human being and they put him on a scale. And they measure how heavy he is. And the kid has, then we put his scale, or we put his weight somewhere on the scale. We plot it down. And that is going to be a good indication to doctors whether we have a problem or not. We will then know, you know what, sure, 50% of all children that are born weigh what your son is weighing. And then you're going to think, oh, it's cool, he's average. Okay, remember 50% is like average, isn't it? So he's average. What happens if the doctor says your son is in the 95th percentile? What the doctor's actually saying then is this, that if your son was born somewhere over here, Okay, let's say he weighed just about 4.5 kilograms. Here it is here. Take note, we're dealing with kilograms. So around about over there, if your son weighed 4.5 kilograms at birth, 95% of the population weighed less than him when they were born. Sure. Okay, that means you got a big boykie. All right. I nearly said something I'm not allowed to say. A baie groot seun. Okay. What happens though in my case? My Lighty was born and he weighed something like 1.8 kilograms. Tiny little insignificant little blob of a human being. Now if you were to look at that 1.8 or 2 kilograms somewhere over here, you can see that it's way below the 5th percentile. In other words, 5% of all children, or rather he, weighed less than more than 95% of children or boys that are born in the world, or in this case, in the United States. Okay? How scary is that? Your tiny little blob, 95% of the population that are born are heavier than him. How small. Okay. Now, straight away, that's going to help the doctors. And they're going to say, uh-oh, we got a problem with this kid. We got to deal with him. Okay. And they might put him in a little incubator to help him breathe, to give oxygen. They might inject him to give him more fluids, might attach a drip, things like that. All right? If the kid comes out and 95% of the population weighs less than him, they're going to say, oh, this is a healthy little boy here, boy. In fact, we've got to watch his weight as he begins to grow. Got that? Okay. So let's have a look now at this whole graph and what it's talking about. The first thing we said was this. If we were to look at our horizontal axis, we can see that we're dealing with age, okay, in months, folk, right? So we've got from birth, then we got 3 months old, 6 months old, 9 months old, 12 months old, etc., all the way up to 36 months. It might be wise to do the following. To say, right, underneath all these months, what I am going to do, I'm going to write a 1 under that 12. I'm going to write a 2 under 24, and I'm going to write a 3 under 36. Why am I doing that? Because at 12 months, the kid's 1 year old. At 24 months, the kid's 2 years old, and at 36 months, the kid is 3 years old, right? Because my examiner might be asking me things about that later on, and I'm sure he is going to. All right, now, you will see there are a whole lot of numbers on the side. The first set of numbers here is in kilograms. And the next lot of figures is in LB, which stands for pounds. Now, being South African, we're probably going to concentrate on the kilograms. Got that? Now, if I were to look on the side of my graph here, you will see a whole lot of figures over there. 95, 90, 75, 50th, 25th, 10th, 5. What's that mean? Well, that's telling me my percentile. Got it? So if you weigh, see how old a kid is, weigh him, plot it, it's going to land somewhere within where all these lines are going. And by knowing where that line is, or that point is, you will be able to determine how much of the population weighs less or how much of the population weighs more than your son. So let's say, for example, okay, and I'm just going to plot it, right? We're going to look at 12 months. So your kid is 1 year old and you take him to a doctor. And you say to the doctor, right, doctor, I need to know, please, how heavy is my kid? And the doctor says, your kid is 8.6 kilograms. Right. So we're going to look at kilograms and we're going to say, well, 8.246 is on this line. It cuts the 12 at this position over here. Oops, over there. Okay? Now that dot lies on the 5th percentile. Now I would be very worried as a parent because I would then say, do you know what? That only 5% of the population either weighs the same or weighs less than my son. 95% of the population weighs heavier or weighs more than my son does when he's 1 year old. Okay? So of all the 1 year olds, 95% of 1 year olds are heavier than my son. there could be a problem with my son's eating. Okay. Let's say, for example, at 2 years old, I go off to the doctor and I say, right, I want to know how heavy is my son. And at 2 years old, the doctor says, your son is 13,6 kilograms. So I say, right, at 2 years old, I know I'm going to plot my point somewhere along this line over here. Got it? And we said 13.6, 13,246 over here. That is the point that I'm going to plot. Now, if I were to follow that line, I'm going to follow it, and I'm going to seize on the 75th percentile. Right? So can you understand about percentile graphs? They get quite complicated because I'm looking at axes on my vertical axis. So I'm looking at numbers on my vertical axis. I'm looking at numbers on my horizontal axis. And then I've got these weird curved lines, and I've got to see where those numbers are. So I'm seeing, where does this curved line, where does this vertical or horizontal line, and where does this vertical line all meet? And where they meet, that's where I'm going to look at my measurement. All right. So looking at that point, we can say my son at 2 years old is on the 75th percentile. In other words, 75% of the population weighs less than him. 25% of the population weighs more than him. Got it? Okay. Kind of complicated, hey? You really got to get into it. I think we've got to take a break.
That's what we're going to do. Okay, guys, let's take a break. Matrix, please tell everyone you know, everyone that's in Matric, please to join our Facebook page, facebook.com/learn extra. It's very important. We've got Saturday school coming up in the next 3 weekends, and I'll be telling you about that as soon as we get back from the break. See you now.